This is 141, The Migration of the Negro, panel number 49 by Jacob Lawrence, made in 1940 to 1941 out of casein tempera on hardboard. Casein tempera is a milk-based tempera, historically been around since prehistory, used in caves even. It is on hardboard. Hardboard is kind of like the whiteboards in our classroom. And Jacob Lawrence is special to us here in the United States, especially because he was a professor at the University of Washington, and his family still lives in, his widow still lives in Seattle. So it's some serious connection to our state. The context is when he was young, Jacob Lawrence researched the history. He won a grant for this, researched the history of the Great Migration, and he wrote the narrative of this migration. On the captions, you can see right here under every painting, he's got a caption describing what was going on in each of his paintings. And you can see some of them are much longer than others. But he made 60 paintings in this series, and they're all made out of the same size panel, 12 inches by 18 inches. Some are horizontal and others are vertical. The context is from 1915 to the 1950s. 6 million African Americans migrated to the north. So here's the population of the South of Black Americans. It was greatly reduced. And they moved from a rural environment to a very urban environment. This is called the Great Migration, and Jacob Lawrence was a child during this migration and moved up to Harlem from the South during this time. In the South, Black Americans were often tenant farmers, meaning they didn't own the land that they farmed, and they were really impoverished. As a result, they had to give part of their crop to the landowners, so it kept them in poverty. And when they went to the North, they worked in factories, and especially during World War I, they would be working in that military industrial complex. This is an image of a family, the Arthur family that moved up to Chicago in the 1920s as a sample. This is another of Jacob Lawrence's panel number 3, which has his caption that reads, "From every southern town, migrants left by the hundreds to travel north." Part of the other reason that Black Americans moved north is they felt that there would be less discrimination. And you can see here, the Ku Klux Klan was really on the rise in the late 1800s through the 1900s. And this is a modern day image of the Ku Klux Klan, which is still in existence in 22 states. And this is, I think, panel number 10, where Jacob Lawrence writes, "There were lynchings." This is in the South, but in the North, there was discrimination as well. This is a 1942 sign in Detroit, Michigan that reads, "We want white tenants in our white community." So the form of this piece is that Jacob Lawrence, once he did all of his research, he rented out a big warehouse space, and he laid out the 60 panels. And then he went around to the 60 panels, and on the bottom, he wrote the caption of what he was going to portray in each of those 60 panels to tell the story of the Great Migration. And the story in our panel 49 is, the caption reads, "They found discrimination in the North." So not the same necessarily discrimination in the South, but definitely still discrimination. And surely you can see that this is a restaurant setting, and what does the discrimination look like? Then after he wrote the captions, he went around with a pencil, and in each of the 60 panels, he drew in what the image was going to be in that each panel. And then he went around with one color at a time, and he painted like all the yellow that he wanted in each of the panels. Then he painted all of the brown or the black, the blue, the white in each panel. And so it was very amazingly efficient. And these are his captions. In the North, the Negro had better educational facilities. And here, the migrants arrived in Pittsburgh, one of the great industrial centers of the North. Then kind of form and content here. In our piece in particular, there's a black, flat, gray, flat background. And you can see he's divided the piece in half. And the yellow cord barrier here is like a pinball that bounces off of these people painted in each piece. And notice the facing of the people kind of away and separate, isolated from one another. And in terms of content, look at the faces, the difference between the face of this man, this woman, and this man. Notice the hands here, much bigger, the stern face. So Jacob Lawrence uses the outline of the people to make a case about what they're feeling and experiencing. Notice this woman's shoulder leaning, kind of cowered down. Same here with this man. So Jacob Lawrence, using simplified geometric forms, still is able to convey the feeling. So the function of this is that Lawrence told the story of African America living in a segregated society. And he also, as an artist, broke the racial barrier. His work was acquired immediately after he did it by the Museum of Modern Art. They bought half. I think they purchased all the even pieces, and then the Phillips collection, which is I think in Pittsburgh, purchased the odd pieces, and pretty amazing set. Jacob Lawrence also painted other sets. This is about Toussaint Louverture, the leader of the Haitian Revolution in Haiti, the successful slave rebellion. And he painted a series about Harriet Tubman and another series about the American Revolution. So famous artist, famous in our state, amazing set of 60 panels. And we are looking at The Migration of the Negro, panel number 49 by Jacob Lawrence, made in 1940 to 41, using Cason tempera on hardboard.